Hi and welcome to my very first video tutorial. I'm going to be covering the basics of HTML today. Um, First off, your editor should be something that you like. When I say editor, text editor, I use Bluefish. You can use Dreamweaver. You could use Microsoft Front Page. You could use Notepad++, regular Notepad, Vim, Skype, Kate, whatever you guys want to use. Context, I don't care. Um, just choose something that you're comfortable with. The reason Bluefish is a good choice is because there's syntax highlighting, which a lot of them have, auto completion, that's very good, which a lot don't have, and a lot of other features too that I don't really get into that much. But the auto completion and syntax highlighting is enough for me. Okay, so I'm going to cheat and do a quick start, which is just going to set my doc type, my meta stuff, all that right off the bat. Alright, so I'm just going to click OK. I'm going to save this real quick. Don't get discouraged. I will explain everything to you in just a second. Okay, so here you can see we're using XML version 1.0 and encoding all of our text as UTF-8, which is just a standard that's used. You can see here is a doc type. It's declaring it as XHTML 1.0 strict in English, and then it gives the link to the website for the World Wide Web Consortium that handles and creates all these standards for web development and things like that when it comes to standards. Let me wrap this real quick. Okay, and then we have our head tag. Um, Alright, the head tag holds our title, which we're going to name My First Web Page. Okay, I'll save that real quick. Make sure you save your work often. Control S is very easy to do. It's an easy habit to pick up. Every couple minutes, you just, after a while, start doing it all the time so you don't lose your work. Alright, then we got our meta tags. The meta tags are just there to help the web browser display the information to search engines when they come looking for you, crawling your sites and things like that. So that's all your meta tag right there. It's just saying what generated this, the author. You can set the date, the copyright keywords of what your site's about, your description goes more into depth of that. And also, one thing that this does not cover is you can link your external style sheets, your CSS style sheets inside the head tag as well. We'll get more onto that later. Alright, so this is the bare bones basic of what your website should start out as. I'm not saying you have to put all the meta tags in there, but at least the HTML tag here, at least the head tag, the title tag, and the body tag. That's all you really need. Okay, and the doc type, of course. Always declare the doc type. Alright, so the first thing we're going to go over is an H1 tag, which is a header tag. And what a header tag does is it displays information and a varying degree of size text. H1 being the largest, H6 being the smallest. Hold on, my stupid phone. Shut up. Okay, so H1 is going to be the largest, and we're going to say, this is my first header tag. Okay, something stupid, something silly. Make sure you save it. Alright, and we're going to switch over to our Firefox browser. And I already have this open from before. I'm just going to hit F5. And you can see this is my first header tag, and you see how large it is. Like I said, it gets progressively smaller as you go from H1 to H6. Okay, let's switch back. Alright, so you use header tags to display your content in an organized way. Maybe your main page title will say as an H1 tag, and then you will have your content labeled with H2 or H3 tags, and then sub-content is H4, H5 tags, and so on and so forth, just to keep your data organized and simple for people to read and find. But that's what those are mainly used for. Alright, and we're going to get into the content of what you would put underneath an H1 tag, which can be a various amount of things, but the main thing is a paragraph. Now, a paragraph is going to obviously display your text in the form of a paragraph. It keeps it nice and organized in block form. So we're going to say this is my first paragraph. Paragraph, yep. Okay, so just type something silly in there. It doesn't have to be anything fun. You're just here to learn right now. One thing I don't think I talked about is make sure you have opening and closing tags around your text. As you can see right here, we have our H1. It's just a greater than and less than sign. And then here we have this little forward slash that shows that it's closing the tag. Okay, you need to have the tags closed to be able to properly render the information on the website. Meta tags, they're an example of where you don't have to have it like this. You would not have to have it as meta and then forward slash meta like that. You can cheat with this right here and just do a forward slash that way. Alright, without having to type all that out. A break tag also, one of those exceptions as well. Has to go like that. You can't do, because there's no text that goes on either side. It's just a line break, which isn't needed because we're using a paragraph tag here. All right, so paragraph tag, header tag. The next tag we're going to talk about is a div. Now a div can contain all this information right here inside of it, like such. Now, a div basically puts an invisible line or box around all the data that it encompasses inside of it. So between this tag and this tag, anything in here has like an invisible box around it. It keeps it in like an invisible square that you can move around, you can size, style it however you want, position it however you want. So divs are very important when you're laying out your website. What I like to do is when I'm doing my CSS, I'll put a div ID and I'll have my main wrapper. Sorry. If I can type tonight, Lord. Alright, so I'll have my ID as a main wrapper. I'll get more into IDs and things like that later, but right now just know that a div puts an invisible box around all the data inside of those two tags, and it allows you to manipulate it later. Now, what you see here, ID, HTTP, equiv, all that, those are called attributes to the tags, and an attribute is just another thing that you can add into the tags. You could add styling attributes. You could add, like here, it points to the CSS file, or more or less has the CSS file point to it, so that you can design and add the exact style elements that you want to that div. So attributes are very important, and we'll get more into those in the later tutorials. So this is really like your first web page. I mean, there's not much more to it. Obviously adding text, styling it, but those are all more advanced things to come later on when we get into CSS. I don't like styling with HTML anymore. I like using CSS for my styling because it keeps my code nice and neat and clean. So try to avoid it if you can, but I'll show you a couple here just in case you want to see how to style in HTML. So we'll come here, we can add an attribute here called a line. If I can spell again tonight, my gosh. Alright, so a line will allow you to center the text. Okay. And we can also do, you can do a title there, but we're not going to. You can do a line equals left. Now the reason that the autocomplete is not popping up for a line here is because this is set to XHTML and it does not want you doing any kind of styling like this inside of the HTML document itself. Now if we come here and hit F5, you'll see that this is now centered, this is still aligned left. Let me show you guys aligned center here. Okay. And F5, and now you can see it's aligned center. Now, I'll show you guys one quick thing. I know you may not understand this div right here, so I'm going to give it a style attribute. Now, style is CSS, so If you don't know CSS, it's pretty easy to pick up. Um, but I'm just going to style and give this a border. And I'm going to give it a 1 pixel solid black. Okay, and save. Now this is just to show you this invisible border that I was talking about earlier, that it does really exist. And you can see that it spans the width of the page and encompasses our H1 tag here and encompasses our paragraph tag here, just as we saw it here, um, encompassing all of that. So that is what the the div tag does, is it puts an invisible box around everything. And then of course we can move this, we can set margins, paddings, things like that. All of that's with CSS. I'll show you guys how to make external style sheets and link them back and forth. But that is the basics of HTML. You're marking up your language, you're marking up your text. It's pretty simple, especially if you keep it bare bones. CSS, I know I keep talking about it a lot, does a lot when it comes to styling. Yes, there are some things with HTML you'll still have to do, or that it will be easier to do, but trust me, to just lay out your HTML, your text properly first, and then to go back and style everything the way it needs to be, makes life so much easier, makes your code so much more readable, makes updating websites so much easier. So try to avoid any kind of styling if you can with HTML. Now the things I didn't cover, which we're going to go over right now, are tables and forms. Now this is more advanced, so if you guys want to pause the video and kind of practice around with this, be my guest. I'm going to show you guys, since I have up to 4 hours here to talk about all this, I'm going to show you guys images, I'm going to show you guys forms, and I'm going to show you guys tables. Now I'm not too familiar with tables because I don't use them, I use divs, but we'll give it a go. Alright, so a table, we're going to do a summary. We'll just call it table 1. It's just basically putting a title there. And we're going to end our table tag. Okay. Now, I like to do one tab over so that I can see my table code layout a lot neater. Alright, and you're going to set off a table row, which is the TR tag. Alright, and I like to tab twice, then do the TD, which is table column basically. It's pretty easy to figure all this out. So you got your table row here, then your column here, and then your text goes here. So if we want to put, and I'm going to show you guys this kind of neat here, but we're going to do username. Okay, now this may not make sense right now, but just bear with me. Alright, so we got our username, we got a TR here. Now we need to create another TD. So we're going to create a TD, which is going to be a second column next to this. So basically what this will do is have username here, and then it'll have an input field here, and I'll show you guys that in a second. Alright, now we're going to jump to forms real quick. Alright, we have our input tags. I don't like having the ending input tag like that. I like to do it like that. Okay, so for input, we're going to do type. Alright, the type is text. That's all we're doing. Alright, the name, we need to name it, we're just going to call it username. And you can set a value to it if you want to. We'll set it to Peter, but you don't really need to. You can leave that blank. Alright, and click save. Now I'm just showing you guys, I know this may be a little bit too much to comprehend right now, and I will explain everything in more detail here after I get this laid out and set up. But we're going to hit F5, alright, and you can see it created a username with a text box that already has Peter included. Now, I can set the value to nothing so that I would have to physically type in Peter like that. Alright, so let's go back, and we're going to get rid of the value, and I'll show you guys what that does. So save, F5, hold on, refresh the page, and you can see there's nothing in there. Okay. Alright, so you can't see the table yet, but this would be one row here. This will be a completely second row here, or column, I mean. So you're going up and down column vertically like this, and we just have one row, which is the TR. Alright, I know it's hard to see, but we'll show you guys more in a minute. Okay, so we're going to come here, we're going to come past this tr here, we're going to create another table row, and we're going to create two TDs here. Alright, TD type. Okay. And this will be password. And this is just going to be like a basic login form. I'm not going to show you guys the code behind it or anything like that, but we're going to do an input. Alright, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to add that. Alright, this time the type is going to be password. Now, the reason this is password instead of text is because it's automatically going to take anything you type and turn it into little circles or asterisks or whatever the heck it does. Alright, and then we're going to name it password. Now, the names are good for when you do form parsing with PHP. You need to call the names with the post variable or the get variable. So it is important that you name everything that you do. Okay, and you could set a value into this just as well, but we're not going to. Okay, one thing you do need to set though up here is a form tag. And the reason I didn't do it is because I got a little overzealous and wanted to show you guys the table and the form together, working together. Okay, the form tag, you have an action. The action is the document or the text document that takes your information that you just submitted through the form and parses it and either emails it to you, displays it back out as dynamic data, things like that. So we're just going to have it set to index.html because right now we're not doing anything with it. We're not going to show you guys any code or any PHP code. Method, most will say to keep it at post. I like to always keep it at post. And I just noticed I spelled password wrong here. Sorry for anybody that might bug you. Alright, and come back down here and type in form. Alright, now the reason we do that on the other side of this table is because we did this form above the table up here. So you got to try to keep everything in between that form. Alright, so we're going to do one more thing here with this table. We're going to create another table row. Alright, this time we're going to create a TD, but we're not going to do anything with this one right here. And then we're going to create another TD, so we're on the second row where all the text input fields are. And we're going to do an input type, and this one's going to be a submit button. So type is submit, name is submit, you can put whatever name you want, and the value, now this is where value does come in handy. Set the value to whatever you want, log in, enter, click here, so we're just going to do login, just to kind of keep with the whole feel of the form, and close that off and save. Okay, so I know this is a lot of data or a lot of information to accept and understand right now, but just bear with me. Alright, so here we have a very nice laid out table with a login button. When you click it, it does nothing because it just goes back on itself as index.html. And of course, remember I set this to text as the type, so you can see that that shows as text, and the password shows as bullets. So that is the basics of forms. So this is a form using a table to lay out the form. Now, obviously you don't have to use a table to lay out the form. You can get rid of all the table elements and just have the form, but then it looks ugly and it's not properly formatted, and people will bitch at me, I guarantee it, to say that you can use divs and CSS to position all this crap. Yes, you can. But to me, using a form, it is tabular data and it belongs in a table. It's much easier to format in a table. So if you want to be the Zen master of divs, by all means, great for you. I don't want to do that because it takes forever and I would have to create an external style sheet right now, which I'm not going to do. Again, up here, you could do another HTML align if you wanted to, and then do a center We'll come back, hit F5, and now it's centered to the page. Um, so it's pretty easy. You can do everything we've done here. You can add a border to it if you wanted to. We could do, let's do a 2 pixel dashed blue. Okay, so we'll set it like that. We'll come over here and hit that, and kind of came out what I was wanting. But you can see the table now. That's perfect. That's, I should have done this earlier. So you can see we have our table row here. We have table. This is table row 1 right here. Table row 2. Table row 3, and then you got TD, which is column row, or column 1 and column 2. So these are the TDs, which are vertical. The horizontals are the TRs. Okay, so you can see this perfectly now. It's a nice little form, beautiful. So you can see what I was trying to show you. So hopefully this isn't too confusing. At any time you can pause the video and see what's what. This code is pretty clear. I'm pretty sure I made this code very visible, at least the important stuff. Okay, so we covered forms and we covered tables. Those are the basics. I will get in more depth in the next tutorial with forms and tables and all of the tags in HTML. I just wanted to kind of give you guys an overview of what you can do just with HTML. Alright, so we're going to come down here and look at images now. Images, very, very, very easy to do. All you do is img source. Alright, the source is the path to your image. Alright, when you're on a web server, it's going to be a little different than when you're using your local computer. Alright, I will get more into that here in a second. But first, let's find an image. Let me remember, I believe I have my watermark saved right on my desktop. .png. Alt is the alternate text if the image, for whatever reason, is broken, does not show up in their browser. There are browsers out there that are text-only browsers with no images whatsoever displayed. The alt attribute, remember we covered that word earlier, will display text where the image should be so that they know what should be there. So we're going to say watermark just for that and close it off. Okay. And you don't have to do an ending /img tag, just close it off. It's actually preferred that you close it off that way with XHTML. They always prefer you to close it off this way when you're doing things like this. So we have our source, we have our alt. Let us go back to our web browser and view. And you can see my image here, which is a PNG, is now displayed. Now, the reason it's over there and not centered is because we didn't center it, and it's in the normal document flow of a web page. So here you have your div on top, and then you have your table, and then you have this, and then the next thing would be underneath of that, and underneath of that, and underneath of that. It's called normal document flow. It's very important to learn that. It's very important to learn when you start using CSS. Things like float removes it from the normal document flow. So pay attention to it when you're doing things. So we could set more attributes, and I'll show you a few more. They're frowned upon. They're not very advisable to do anymore, but you can set the width and height of an image. A lot of people use them when they're doing large images. They want to make them smaller. Use an image editing program to edit your image size, because when you sit there and just take a 2000 by 1500 pixel image and then shrink it down to a 250 by 100, your web browser is still going to load the 2000 by 1500 pixel image, but it's just going to show it as smaller. So it's still going to take up a lot of bandwidth, and it's going to take a little bit of time for it to load up, especially if you have several on the page. But for the sake of the tutorial, I will show you the attributes that you can use. So we're going to set the width to maybe 400 because we're making this image a little bigger. The height we will make 250. Alright, I don't have any idea what this is going to look like. All I know is it's going to be bigger. Okay, so you can see we've made it bigger. Alright, so you got the width and height attribute that you can use with images. You can also use the align function, or not function, but attribute. So align center. Saved it. I don't think I saved it. Hold on. Did I save it? Put it over here. We're going to align this to the right this time because you guys haven't seen that yet, I don't think. Alright, so you can see it's aligned over to the right hand side now instead of to the center. There's three align attributes, which are center, left, and right. So you can see it's pretty easy to do HTML once you get the hang of everything. This is just an overview of what you can and cannot do. I don't advise doing any of this right here with the height, the width, and the align. The source obviously you have to do to show the image, but and the alt you need as well. But width and height, don't use it. Just use a real editing program like GIMP or in-front view. Use things like that to resize your images, because honestly, if you don't, when you start loading up 6, 7, 8 images at the size that I told you earlier, like 2000 by 1500 pixels, you're going to slow the hell down out of that computer, whoever's on the other side, unless they got a lot of memory to spare. So don't do it. Make smaller images. It's just much easier. Tables. Alright, we covered tables. You got the table here, you got the table row, and the column. So we covered that. We covered forms. We didn't cover the action really. That's really something I will talk about in another tutorial. Action basically, like I said, is telling the form where to go to parse the information that we input in the username and password field, or whatever fields that you want. Method is post. That is the most secure way to send your information. If you use method get, which would look like this, and actually I could show you guys this. So when you use method get and we come back here and we input a password and then we click login, and I'm not going to remember that. Alright, get doesn't do anything, but it'll display the information up here when you're on the web, when you're on a web server. When you send it to the form, it'll display the PHP or the text here and the password and everything. As you can see right here, it displayed a question mark, which is saying that there's going to be some kind of input on the other side of our thing here, and then it showed the username, which, let me go back. Hold on, let me click in there. It shows the username equals blank because we didn't put anything, and password equals blank because we didn't type anything, and submit equals log plus in. Alright, so if we type in Peter, not Perter, Peter, okay, and the password, and click login, alright, you can see what that is. I typed in Peter as my username, and for my password I typed in 084900. So you can see how unsecure that is using the get method, because people will be able to see that, and if somebody is looking at your website maliciously, waiting for people to fill out data like this and use a get method, they're screwed, because you just gave that hacker or cracker or whatever you want to call them the information they needed. So always, always, always use post, because it is the most secure way to do this when it comes to sending information from a form. Alright, so I will talk more about that at a later date. We covered paragraph tags, H1 through the H6 tag, the div tag. Really the only other tags I can think of right off the top of my head are span tags. Now span tag is just a way to style something specifically on the page. So if we did a span tag here and we came over to the other side and closed that span tag, alright, by itself not going to do anything. You're not going to even notice it. Alright, so notice nothing changed. Alright, a span tag just lets you specifically span the length of whatever data is in between that to set a style or set whatever attribute you need. So we'll do a style. And this is CSS again. We're going to do color, red, and we'll do font size as 18 pixels. Okay, we're going to save, we're going to go back, and you can see our paragraph now is red and it is 18 pixels in size, while everything else inside the paragraph tags, the P tags, stays the same. Alright, that is what I use the span tag for, at least, is to explicitly just to set specific text to be a certain way. What other tags can I think of? I mean, there's so many tags, but honestly, these are the most important ones that I'm covering right now that I can think of. Yeah, I think I'm going to wrap this up. We're already going on 31 minutes, so I hope you guys enjoyed. I know it's a long tutorial. I know it's a lot of information to process. Just sit through it. And practice. Read on your own. I can't show everything to you. I can't show it perfectly to you. So if you don't understand something, Google it or ask me down below on the comment section. I will be more than glad to help you guys out. So yeah, just thanks for watching the video. I hope this helps some of you out. If you're more advanced, I'll be putting out more tutorials later on with some more advanced stuff. So positioning, CSS, things like that. So enjoy, guys. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. And this has been a tutorial from PPS Web Design.